Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. And welcome to this session where we're going to be getting to know some of the members of the SIMAR community. My name is Bianca from the Professional Standards team at SIMAR, and I'm your host today for the next half an hour or so. So today we're joined by quite a few lovely faces. We have Kristen Ball, who is business graduate at Profiles by Kantar, Nijat Mamabadi, market research and insight specialist at booking.com, and also SIMAR Council member. We have Adrian Teron, who is head of consumer centricity at the Tata Group, and Andrea Ascaruns, master of marketing at the Schulich School of Business. So hi, everybody. It's really great to have you here. So I think just to start off, brilliant. Just to start off, start to get to know you a little bit better. I would be really curious to hear, how did you find your way into the research and insight sector? Kristen, maybe I can start with you.
Yeah, so I actually was pretty confident for most of my life. I'd say 8th grade through junior year of college that I was going to grow up and become an art director in an ad agency, and that was just going to be my path. And then I had an internship in it, and I absolutely hated it. So senior year of college, I was frantically trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I actually took our market research class, which was part of my curriculum as a marketing major. And the professor actually connected me with someone who had graduated from my school and was working for Ipsos, who was willing to talk to anybody who was interested in learning more about market research. So I ended up hopping on the phone with her, and we talked for like 45 minutes, and I was sold that that was the industry I wanted to go into.
That's brilliant to hear. And Nijat, can I come to you next? What made you want to join the insight sector and also stay in the insight sector?
Oh, wow. Honestly, it was completely by accident because there was a guest lecture actually organized also by SIMAR at our university, and I was completely by accident there. I was invited simply because our professor sent an email, and if he wasn't, I wouldn't be there. So I was there. Back then, my ex-colleague from SKIM was presenting. I saw the sparkle in her eyes when she was talking about the subject. I knew that I always wanted to do marketing, but I didn't know what exactly in marketing because marketing is so broad. And after she talked and presented her topic, I thought, okay, I think market research could be a thing. Then I applied, but I didn't get in, to be honest, because there was no position available. And then 6 months later, I applied again, and I was already in the marketing research industry. And then, yeah, it sucked me in. And it's been already, 5 years, I think it will be soon, that, yeah, I'm still here. And now basically moving from agency side to the client side.
Brilliant. Well, really glad that you're still here. And Adrian, what about you?
Thanks.
Oh, hi, Bianca. Hi, everyone. I actually grew up wanting to be a superhero when I was a child, and that failed pretty spectacularly, as you can imagine. So the only real superhero I could be like was Sherlock Holmes, and I was a big Sherlock Holmes fan as a kid, reading every possible publication, which is why I noticed silly things like, the book behind you is called Age of Surveillance Capitalism, or that Nijat is a Man U fan, or that Andrea has impeccable taste in furniture. Completely useless information, of course. And as I grew up, the only job that wanted you to gather useless information was business journalism. So I joined CNBC in India as a television reporter and anchor. And this was the same time in India when the market research or the insights industry got hit with a lot of demand and attrition because the consulting world suddenly realized it was full of very smart people. So they decided to hire laterally. And I bumped into someone when I was covering the CPG sector, the chairman of the company that later became Nielsen in India. And he said, we're hiring laterally. Journalism and research has one fundamental skill in common, which is asking the right questions. So I pretended I was being a detective, and I thought I was, and I stumbled into this industry. And now here I am, finally at the pinnacle of it with you great folks. So I feel like my life has, reached its ambition.
That's really great to hear. Thank you, Adrian. And coming to you, Andrea, what made you want to kind of further explore the world of marketing? Now you're doing your master's in marketing, right? So how did that come about?
Sure. So it was back in my undergrad. I remember I had one class about principles of marketing, and I remember reading a section of the book that had this question of why we buy what we buy. And I remember I was obsessed with it. Maybe going to a supermarket and seeing why am I putting all these things in the cart and maybe not another brand. By the same time, a friend of mine actually reached out to me telling me about the SIMAR Congress in Latin America, which happened to be in Bogota that year, which is where I'm from. So he was like, they're looking for ambassadors to help with logistics, but also be involved with the Congress. I don't know if you're interested. So it was by mistake, actually. I said yeah, sure, why not? Let's try it. And so I was involved with that Congress that year, working my networking skills, which I learned from SMR as well. I was part of the SMR Congress the following year in Mexico City. And from there, I got the amazing opportunity of joining Bernard Ricard for a consumer insights one-year internship. So since then, I was involved with them. My manager and I did a research paper that we presented in the SMR Congress the following year in Argentina. And I think, I don't know, I just stayed in the insight sector because I really, really liked it. And I've been involved since then.
Well, that's brilliant to hear. Thank you so much all for sharing, kind of a little bit of your professional life story, let's say. So we'd also really like to hear from you maybe some of the most exciting projects that you're working on at the moment, be it in work or even outside of work, something that kind of helps you to get out of bed in the morning and you think, okay, this is what I'm working on today and I love it. Or maybe even something that you have planned for the future. Adrian, can I come to you first?
Oh, yeah, sure. Not very long back in the last ISOMAR Congress, we presented or were selected to present some of the work we had done, which fused together satellite imagery as well as ethnographic research to be able to lock down into which micro markets and which consumer profiles were going to drive growth faster than the average consumer segment. And that's work that has really come home right now in a world where brands have to contend with not convincing necessarily consumers to come to their stores, but going to consumers where they are, selecting geographies, dealing with constraints. And it's really played into, I think, not because we have some visionary zeal or some crystal ball, it's just coincidence that that's played very well into the current scenario. And that's keeping me excited right now. We're trying now across the group. So I work at the headquarters of a conglomerate, the largest conglomerate in India. We sell everything from SUVs to smartphones to to steel and software. So the idea is, how do we look at trends, the same trends that we thought were going to play out over the next half a decade or so? How do we re-look at them and meld them together, not just with strategy in the boardroom, but by talking to consumers every day, different sets of consumers. So that's got us really excited. We're about to launch a project where we've called the 100 Voices of Truth, where we are going to talk to 100 consumers across different strata, the mainstream, the fringe, and try to get from them ideas on how their lives are going to change and what that might mean for the future. So very excited about that.
That's fascinating. Thank you. And Kristen, maybe you would like to share with us, something that you're working on at the moment that's helping you sort of jump out of bed.
Yeah, of course. So being a member of a development program, I have the, I guess, like privilege of being able to work on a lot of different things in a short period of time. So, and Kantar likes to focus on making people T-shaped individuals. So even if I was in a more permanent role, they're pretty good about exposing you to different areas of the business. So recently, especially with COVID and everything going on, I personally have a passion for employee engagement and culture initiatives. So kind of working to make us all still feel connected and together, even though we're all working remotely right now. I've been working on a lot of initiatives that way, which being in the market research sector makes that really easy because, again, it's about asking the right questions and collecting the right information from your own people. I've also still been working on some honesty priming stuff, which is research that I presented at Congress last year for the Yes Award. So I'll work on client projects every now and then to help create some honesty priming narrative. And I've also been working on some inclusion and diversity stuff as well.
Really fascinating. Thank you for sharing. And Andrea, anything exciting, any projects that you're working on at the moment or maybe in the future?
Sure. Well, I can talk about a recent project that a team and I just finished. We had to work with an art travel company during the last 8 months, since January. And of course, with COVID, our expectations, our work totally changed immediately. About in March, we had to change everything. So we were doing some research and trying to help them out with not only their execution as a company, because that's why they got to us at the first place, but also how to bring meaningful experiences to the clients they were working in. What their main idea is to combine art and travel. So they will do, I don't know, a painting session in Italy or cooking session in Spain. But now that they're going online, then how you give, this meaningful experience to someone that's taking a class online, which is probably not the same thing as flying to the country and having this immersive experience for sure. So we were working with them. We helped them also through our research, through identify a particular target market that they will probably be willing to use for this specific service, and that they were willing to, be on a screen for a considerable amount of time to have this experience. Also, what can we, send maybe to their houses so that they can have a better experience in their homes while taking these courses. So it was all about creating this new service and this new offering that no matter it was online, it was still valuable for the clients.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, creating this kind of engaging online space is something that, a lot of people, a lot of companies are really thinking about at the moment. And it's definitely going to be a space that's going to progress from here as well. Also, Nijat, kind of coming to you, it's been really interesting seeing your career develop, as part of the SMR community, first with Skim here in the Netherlands and now with Booking.com, and of course with your SMR Council hat. So, from the kind of SMR Council perspective, is there something really exciting or interesting that you're working on at the moment that you'd like to share with us today?
Sure. So together, actually, with my counterpart, like Nikki, who is also on the council, so we're working on the Yes initiatives, but also the diversity and inclusion. So we're actually now talking with different market research organizations across the globe, how we can cooperate and maybe share some common practices, but also tackle the diversity and inclusion initiative together to spread the word more about it. But also from the Yes perspective, we had a really good session in July to understand what is it that we need to do to drive the Yes community to be more part of the SMR. And there are a few ideas, and I can only mention them briefly because they're still work in progress. So probably in the next month, you will hear more. But one of them that we really want to kick off is a mentorship program. So to give an opportunity for young professionals, but also young graduates to have a mentor through the SMR that could guide them, help them, Because I don't know about you folks, but for me, when I started the career, I was clueless of what is it I'm doing. I had to learn myself or ask my colleagues at work. And luckily, I had a really good manager who managed to invest her time in me and help me to understand, let's say, the basics of market research. Because when I started, I didn't even know that market research exists. But so from that perspective, yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity to have mentors that could guide you, could introduce you to the industry and tell you more what is it. Because market research, like we're 4, 5 people here, and we all have different backgrounds. We all have different experiences, because market research is so big, so diverse, and yeah, you cannot know it all by yourself if you're just fresh from university or you just started your career.
Thank you for sharing, and yeah, really exciting to see what's to come as well. And now, if I can come on to you, Kristen, I think we met at the Congress, the SMR Congress in Edinburgh last year, if I'm not mistaken, and sort of now 1 year later, you're advising on the program committee for this, entire Insights Festival. So, could you tell us a little bit about how your journey this past year has been as part of the SMR community?
Yeah, I feel like I've learned so much being a part of the committee. It was definitely, we had to be flexible because when we started planning this was obviously supposed to be an in-person event, which had one timeline. That's something they've done before, obviously many times before. So it was a very well-oiled machine. And I don't even remember which month it was that we ended up deciding. I want to say it was maybe April that we ended up deciding to switch it to a virtual event, which just completely shook things up because it changes the size and the dates that people need to get things in by and the theme. It changed absolutely everything. So being flexible, it was really nice. I guess it kind of goes along with the value of the mentorship program that you were talking about, Najat. Me being able to sit alongside people who have been in the industry for a while and are very successful in their careers, and the fact that we would sit down, because we did get to meet in person before everything happened, to review submissions and all the different outlines and papers and whatnot. And so to sit down and me review everything myself, make my own opinion based on my perspective of the industry and my knowledge, and then hearing everyone else's thoughts on the same exact piece was really interesting, because we've got client side people, we've got industry side, you've got CEOs, you have people who work more niche versus a more generic market research role. So the exposure to different perspectives has been absolutely amazing. And now seeing all of our hard work turn out successfully is really rewarding as well. So like hosting yesterday was really exciting for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you. And you touched upon it yourself, Kristen. The past few months have been really challenging, both from a professional perspective, but also from a personal perspective. So I really like to hear from you. Have you found that how have you seen, the community around you kind of come together during this time? And maybe you took part in some community activities, maybe virtually with your professional networks. Maybe I can come to you, Adrian. How have you seen the community coming together the past few months?
So you're right. I think the last few months for everyone has been challenging. Kristen spoke of, Kantar wanting to develop T-shaped individuals. And because we've been restricted at home in India without the gyms open, etc., my big challenge has been trying to not turn into an O-shaped individual with all the food I'm eating. But that apart, I think reaching out to other research professionals and getting them to come together around specific challenges, I've seen, I think, a much greater degree of, shall I say, camaraderie than ever before. Before the pandemic hit, everyone was so busy with their lives. The fact is that research industry in India has been hit. There have been, like any other part in the world, there have been furloughs, layoffs, and the community coming together to understand how people who are affected might be helped is, to me, yet another symptom of what ISOMAR has always embodied, which is it's not just a marketing conference in the guise of an award ceremony to make sure people attend, but a genuine community of interest that is interested in supporting, sharing, and making sure that there is a mutual thriving. So that's what's kept us busy, and that's what's kept me engaged, Bianca.
That's really nice to hear, Adrian. Thank you. And Andrea, maybe I can come to you. What has been your experience of community in these past few months?
Sure. So I think I can speak from a student perspective. And I have been, being in this transition of stop being a student and now going back to the job search and job openings and stuff. So I think the SMR community, I think it has helped me a lot. I was part of the Open Circle with Christine and Injad a few months ago, and I think finding in SMR people who kind of share your thoughts and your concerns about the uncertainty in the future, but also can give you a hand with helping you to figure out what you want to do next and kind of help to grow your network in what you really want to do. I think it has helped me a lot. I have met with a lot of different people through conversations online. As Adrian said, everyone's more willing to give you the time to speak. And I think that I have totally found that through this time and through the SMR community. So I'm really grateful for that. And I think it's a great way to expand your network, to learn more, to share your concerns. So it's a very supportive community.
Absolutely. And you mentioned also, the Open Circle that you attended. They've really been a great way to kind of, just allow us to sort of come together and support each other and share ideas with each other and kind of share the burden a little bit of all of these challenges that we've been facing in the past few months. Nijat, anything that you'd like to share on this kind of experience of community in the past few months?
To be honest, I will talk from the LinkedIn perspective because I do see a lot of posts now, unfortunately, of people being laid off and furloughed. And what I've seen on LinkedIn, I think it's the first time I've seen in a while where the hashtag was first created, the MRX jobs, which was around like globe, very, very popular. So people who basically looking for a job or being laid off, they're using this hashtag, or people who are offering a job using this hashtag to help research community people who are now struggling through the job transition to find something or to help and offer some, let's say, free time, consultancy, for example, recruiters offering review your resume, giving some tips for free, it's just voluntary experience. And that was like, I was amazed because I haven't seen anything like this before in the digital version. I've seen it in real life before, but this is different. And I do see how SMR with the open circles that was created throughout the past month, and I'm sure it will be continuing, bringing different insights experts, professionals into the room, let's say virtual room, and sharing the experiences and also tips. That's definitely like invaluable because a lot of us, for example, we're living in different cities, different countries, different time zones. So we cannot really attend, let's say, SMR Congress or any specific event that's organized physically. And having it in a digital world where everything is recorded and you can basically watch it later on demand, that's fantastic because it helps you to be part of the community even though you're so far away from it.
Mm-hmm. And it gives, access as well to so many more people to the great content and ideas that are coming out from all around the world. So, hopefully that's something that will continue as well. And, Nijat, you mentioned some of the digital tools that we kind of have available at our fingertips now that are really readily available. Adrian, do you have, any kind of experiences with that as well?
Oh, yes, I queued you in the chat window for a specific reason. I was half joking, but I said that, I'd like to also thank my best friend, Anna, which is ISOMAR's Anna. Of course, she's full of insights and kept me intellectually occupied like never before. My wife's actually quite envious. But the fact that Anna is an artificial intelligence machine that is quite, I should say, for lack of a better word, quite intelligent, but quite sensitive to the queries you put in, makes it a really great, or has made it a really great resource to tap into research. One of the truisms of research is that 95% of research done is never reused or relooked at. And that's a terrible waste. I think that engines like Anna should be our first go-to at times like this when we are searching for new ideas. And the fact that different industries, different geographies can learn from each other is a real boon to our profession, but also to industry at large when we need new ideas for growth.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. And I think, we only have just a few minutes left. So I think one last question to all of you that I would really like to hear, and I'm sure many in the audience might be interested as well, is, is there one piece of kind of practical advice that you would give to somebody who is just starting out in the research and insight sector, who is interested in joining the insight sector? Kristen, can I come to you first?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, and I know my role is very unique, but I would definitely say to stay flexible, be willing to continue learning. Like, yes, you've graduated from school, you're going into the real world, you're starting a job, but you want to hold on to that student mindset because you have absolutely no idea where your career is going to take you, who you're going to meet, what you're going to fall in love with, and you need to be willing to kind of be uncomfortable and put yourself in those situations to learn new things. And people recognize that too, and latch on to those people who are willing to step outside of their comfort zones.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Andrea, can I come to you next? One piece of practical advice for somebody maybe even interested in studying marketing or joining the community.
Sure. I think it's try and see if you like it, because I feel that this particular industry, you kind of have to like it to stay in it. But I came here by mistake, as I mentioned before, and I think that it's a matter of keep on trying, see if you truly like it, and see what what your work can actually do. And I mean, insights is like the base of probably every strategic decision a company makes, or like if you want to launch a product, then you have to have insights behind, and it's the part that it's the base of every decision at the end. No matter where you are, what decision you're taking, it's insights is pretty important. So when you realize the outcome that comes out of this, it's pretty, I don't know, it amazed me every time I work with it. So I think it's a matter of try, see if you like it. As Kristen said, keep on working, keep on studying, and just go for it. I think one of the biggest things is also, if you're interested in this, reach out to SMR members, reach out to the SMR community. Also, ask what their roles have been, and be in touch with it.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Nijat, one practical piece of advice from you.
Well, Andrea stole my piece of advice, and now I need to think about another one. So, no, but I would say maybe a mix of what Kristen and Andrea said. It's like you have an opportunity now to learn, kind of starting from the blank white sheet. If you have questions, ask. If you want to learn something new, go and learn. And Andrea said it perfectly right, that this is the industry that you really need to like to be in it. It's not something that you can wiggle and just, pass it as an exam. No, you really need to like it, enjoy what you're doing. And the industry is massive. You can be on the client side, you can be on the software side, you can be on an agency side. Maybe try to figure out where you want to be, what you want to learn, and then do this exercise of talking to yourself, what you want to get out of it, where you see yourself maybe in 5-10 years. I know it's a very basic interview question, but really it helps now because you have time to do it. So just do this exercise. And if you have any questions, any doubts, reach out to people that you don't know, or if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to those people, reach out to your friends, family, who can basically help you to point you to the right direction.
Absolutely, yeah. And Adrian, one practical piece of advice from you.
Don't be boring. And if you don't want to be boring, the insights industry is the only place you'll find things like as disparate as statistics, neuroscience, satellite imagery, ethnography, semiotics, all coming together. The world has never needed a synthesis of old ideas to create new ones more than it needs it now. So that growth is dependent on someone who can put it all together. Who better than you if you've already joined the insights industry?
Absolutely, all really, really valuable words of insights. And thank you all so much for your openness today and for being here with me today. To Adrian, to Andrea, Kristen, and Nijat, it's been lovely chatting to you and getting to know you better. So next up on the Hub TV, do stay tuned, because in about 13 minutes, we are starting with the Research Got Talent global competition, where you are going to see young researchers from Russia, from India, from Czech Republic, Australia, Peru, and they're going to be telling us more about how they've been working with charities and NGOs in their local communities. So, you know, as we've said today, there is really a lot going on and so much variety and so much to get involved in. So do stay tuned and see you again soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. All right, so hi everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Research Got Talent live show. My name is Bianca. I'm Senior Advocacy and Standards Programs Coordinator here at SIMAR, and I'm here with my colleague Razvan, who is Program Coordinator over at the SIMAR Foundation.
We're delighted to be here to present our new global initiative showcasing talents of the new young researchers in our international committee with participants from Australia, Czech Republic, India, Peru, and Russia. The initiative centers around young researchers using market research to support NGOs and charities in the local community to address meaningful social issues.
Yeah, and before we dive in, we also wanted to tell you a little bit about the history of the Research Got Talent initiative. So this started with the associations in India and Hong Kong when they organized local competitions where young researchers could really design and implement projects to address some of the challenges faced by NGOs and charities in the local communities. After this initiative, we have worked really closely with the founders of the initiative to bring this competition to the global level. And a really warm thank you to Chris Farquhar and Praveen Shekhar for helping us and supporting us to bring this initiative to life on the global plane.
Participants in these initiatives were set out the task of choosing an NGO or charity in their country, talk with them about their challenges, and design a research proposal and market research to try to address these challenges. The young researchers you will see here today, you have already completed and competed in their local countries and are the winners of the Research Got Talent competition.
So really a lot of hard work has already gone into this so far. So this year is really the first year that we bring this initiative to the global stage, but it absolutely could not have happened without the hard work of the local associations and organizations in the participating countries. So with this, we would really like to extend our gratitude to the Australian Association of Market and Social Research Organizations, the Peruvian Association of Market Research Companies, Online Market Intelligence in Russia, SIMAR, the Market Research Association of Czech Republic, and the Market Research Society of India. It's really been a real pleasure working so closely with you all in the past year on this initiative, and I hope that it will continue.
As you probably imagine, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a huge impact on our lives and societies across the world. And it also had an impact on young researchers, associations, and all the organizations participating in this initiative. We have loved to meet you everyone in person at this Congress in Toronto, but we'd like to congratulate you all for your hard work in tackling this project and taking it to the virtual environment.
So without further ado, today you're going to get to see this brilliant work brought to you directly by the young researchers who have submitted their presentations via video. We also have our Research Got Talent jury watching today, and that jury is comprised of our experts on the association's executive committee, and I'm sure that they will have a really difficult job with this one. So first up, you will meet our Australian participant, Steph Perry. Steph is Senior Research Executive at Ipsos, and Steph has chosen to really focus on maintaining the social connection and combating loneliness for elderly Australians, especially in the face of COVID-19. So sit back and enjoy this brilliant presentation.
Hello from Brisbane, Australia. My name is Steph Perry from Ipsos, and I'm excited to talk to you about my project with Spur.org called Reaching Out to Elderly Australians. I will begin by acknowledging the First Nations people as the traditional owners of Australia and pay deep respects to First Nation elders past, present, and emerging. And it's our elders that are at the heart of my discussion today. I want you to take a moment to think about an elderly person in your life. They could be your family, your neighbour, friend, or even an acquaintance. Who are they to you? What impact do you have on each other's lives? And how do you think they're coping right now? For the elderly, life stresses, loneliness, and poor mental health are often intertwined. Now, I could tell you that 800,000 people commit suicide globally each year, and a quarter of those suicides are aged 60 or above. And sadly, in Australia, men aged 80 plus committed suicide more than any other age group in 2018. But nothing will bring this research to life more for you than thinking about that elderly person in your life. For me, that person is my nan. She has played many roles in my life, including a friend, disciplinary, playmate, supporter, a third parent, and my nanny bird, as I call her. She's a strong, kind, and giving person who has meant so much to so many people. However, while she's always been a natural introvert, I saw her grow more isolated in her old age as her capabilities and consequently her independence declined. Most importantly, I saw how this significantly impacted her well-being, despite her strong exterior and resilient attitude to life. She is the reason I sought out a partnership with Spur.org to do this research. Spur.org is a multi-award-winning charity that aims to reduce the number of suicides around the world by making it easier for people to take positive action for their mental health. One of their key national campaigns, Old Mate, encourages people to spend 1 hour per month with an elderly person to reduce social isolation and loneliness through specific, fun, and easy activities. They pledge online to spend time with their old mate, so I refer to them as pledgers and old mates. Increasing pledges is the campaign objective, but then 2020 hit. New social barriers arose from COVID-19 restrictions for all of us, but particularly for our elderly who are extremely vulnerable to isolation and loneliness. The aged care facilities were locked down across Australia and the public was barred from entering. I could see my nan, but this was because of an exception. She was placed in palliative care. It broke my heart to see a once vibrant aged care facility become quiet and sombre, passing by rooms with people all alone. In the first meeting with Lee at Spur.org, we were clear that the direction of the research had to address these new challenges of social distancing to the key objective of the campaign to connect with the elderly.
Here at Spur.org, we've been working to reduce social isolation amongst the elderly for years now through our Old Mate project. At the start of 2020, I think we saw the writing on the wall with COVID that lockdowns were likely and that mental health needs and challenges were likely to balloon, particularly amongst those who were already socially isolated. So we were really excited to be introduced to Steph through one of our advisory board members, Kylie Brosnan, who is the Director of Public Affairs at Ipsos. And what really struck us about Steph from the very first conversation was her focus on outcomes. I think, data and insights are really useful, but what's more important is that then how do you utilize that? How do you use that data to actually improve people's well-being and mental health?
Initially, we had many questions, but we had to focus and prioritize. So we asked, how are elderly Australians feeling and coping with the effects and restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic? What is the nature of cross-generational friendships, and which ones are struggling or adapting throughout COVID-19? And what are some practical activities for pledgers to do with their old mate to keep them connected? The Australian Competition Brief generously funded a quantitative online sample from Lucid. But it became apparent from the questions we were asking that I needed qualitative research to help understand the issues first, before quantifying them in an online survey. So I stuck to my convictions on the methodology and wrote my rationale for the inclusion of qualitative research in the design. But to make this happen, I had to convince others to support my cause and ask for their contribution. Ipsos donated a qualitative app platform and the online survey programming. The Park Bench in Brisbane offered me a discounted venue to hire for a workshop. Spur.org helped recruit the most amazing pledgers. Anglicare and Infinite Care helped recruit aged care residents and staff. And I used every personal and professional connection I had to get participants in the research. Qualitative research was definitely the right method, but fieldwork was not without its challenges during a pandemic. The methodology had to be innovative and flexible, evolving to meet participant needs, adhering to protective health guidelines, and adapting to engage a vulnerable elderly audience. I gained insights from elderly people living independently and in aged care facilities, pledgers to the Old Mate initiative from age 22 to 74, and staff working with the elderly in aged care facilities and in the community. To accomplish this, I became participant-centric. adapting the method for individual participant needs and social distancing barriers. To gather as many valuable perspectives as possible, I alternated the method between the Ipsos App Life tool for those who could use it, emailed Word documents, paperwork booklets for those with low digital literacy, phone interviews, and a socially distanced workshop. So while there were many challenges, I persevered to get the voices and experiences of pledgers and old mates through active listening and, most importantly, empathy, which brought both depth and breadth to the insights. I heard from aged care facility managers hiring new people specifically to connect their residents to the outside world through smart devices and video calls. From pledgers trying to talk to their old mate who is struggling to cope. From elderly people enjoying a cup of tea across the retirement village fence. And from distressed aged care residents struggling to make sense of their situation. There were so many stories. The insights helped us to design a focused online questionnaire with a clear hypothesis about the nature of cross-generational friendships and the potential typologies of pledgers and old mates. The 1,000 completed surveys with a random sample representative of the Australian population validated the qualitative research. During this project and all the challenges I faced, I discovered a lot about myself and my team. I am now more confident as a researcher when I need to justify my position. Qualitative research was the right thing to do, even though the competition brief did not specify it. I knew my client needed it to solve their problem. I learned to think on the fly, to problem solve and be agile, to bounce ideas around with my team and work really closely with Spur.org. I learned what ownership meant. I wanted to take this project on and prove that I could do it alone, show that this was my great work. But ownership really meant taking responsibility for a project, and that includes asking for help. I learned that being vulnerable and having passion is a strength. I rallied people to believe in the Old Mate initiative as much as I did, and then they helped by contributing their time and resources to make this happen. From the first meeting with Lee at Spur.org, I immediately knew that Old Mate was their baby, a campaign that launched their charity. They are passionate and dedicated, so they needed a researcher who understood their business needs and who could manage their expectations. So I worked with their passion, and from this developed my passion further for the project. I took on such a sense of ownership, empathy, and love for this initiative, feeling this enormous accountability to meet the research objectives. And when you grow a connection with a client like that, your relationship takes on a new level of shared excitement and determination for the project. I knew Spur.org were deeply invested in this project, but also extremely time poor as it is a volunteer charity. So while in close collaboration every step of the way, I was also careful to not take up too much of their time unnecessarily. They were comfortable to leave the technical research and methodology decisions to me. Our close collaboration meant that they became my team, but also I became a trusted member of their team. They knew they could trust me with the project because of my demonstrated approach and dedication. I worked the problems I faced from every angle, always bringing a potential solution to every problem I raised, and was intensely focused on working towards outcomes. They even sent flowers to my home when my nan, my old mate, passed away.
This process has been such a great reminder for us that there is always more to know. We've been co-designing solutions in the social isolation space now for years, but it is a really complex space and it's ever evolving, and what worked maybe 12 months ago doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work now in COVID. And so there's been some really great light bulb moments for us that I think won't just help us during COVID, but will really fundamentally shift the way that we approach engagement with volunteers well into the future. And so for us, it's been a real pleasure and an honour to work with Steph. And I know that this competition is primarily directed at young researchers. But Steph's methodology, her communication, transparency, attention to detail, professionalism has been some of the best that we've ever had the pleasure of working with, and we will absolutely be working with her again in the future.
In the end, through all the challenges, learnings, and collaboration, we found some truly substantial and impactful insights. We learned that COVID-19 is ultimately making the vulnerable more vulnerable, that it is not just a social opportunity issue, that cross-generational friendships are varied, but at the same time have distinct dynamics and typologies that influence how they manifest, flourish, and struggle. That COVID-19 barriers are physical, but also psychological. However, it is not all bad news. COVID-19 has started a chain of events that has resulted in new initiatives, conversations, and community action across Australia and around the world that were badly needed before today. And this is just a small snapshot of the many fascinating and compelling insights we found that will not only impact the current OldMate initiative, but also the planned extension of the initiative, and have broader implications for the global conversation on the elderly, social isolation, and COVID-19. So finally, I would like to finish this off with a little advice from our old mates about getting through COVID-19. They are what made the research truly special, and I can't thank them and the other participants enough for volunteering their time.
I learned about video calling, and I will continue with this. I made a point of getting in phone touch with my neighbours to make sure they were okay, especially the single ones. If you live on your own, make sure to have someone with regular contact.
Don't be afraid to ring someone. They might just be wanting to talk to someone too. If you don't have a computer or smartphone, use a landline or whatever mobile you have. Voice contact is good and a lot better than no contact at all. Resurrect the art of writing letters, especially if you or they don't have emails. Keep to your daily routine as normally as you can. If you go for a walk, do so, and greet fellow walkers, and have socially distanced chats. Facebook Messenger makes it easy to just send quick "how are you going" messages, and ditto mobile phones.
From my experience, it was important that I should make an effort to think of ways I could stay connected. Firstly, it was hearing someone's voice and spending time asking if they were okay and did they need any support that I could help with. Realizing that some people wish to stay more anonymous, but trying to be tactful and not overpower them with ideas. Before this happened, I didn't think too much about any possible maintenance that could be required and how would someone be able to contact me for help.
Take the necessary precautions, but don't be paranoid and go into hiding. Worrying too much will make your mental state worse. Take the opportunity to get out in the open air more than you might be used to. Nature has a wonderfully calming effect. Seize the opportunity to connect with friends and family, and particularly with friends you might not have been in touch with for a long time. It's so rewarding to touch base on the phone or via email, FaceTime or Zoom. Above all, resist the temptation to hoard toilet paper and other commodities. It's plain selfish.
All right, so welcome back to the studio, everyone. We really hope that you enjoyed Steph's presentation as much as we did. It's certainly really refreshing to see the role that the market research community can play in the lives of so many people around the world, and the great things that can be achieved when we partner with the NGOs and charities in our local communities that are doing the work on the ground. So a very warm thanks again to Steph, to the Australian Association of Market and Social Research Organizations, and to Luma Research, Lewis, and Lucid for making this possible.
It's also a great opportunity to learn more about how NGOs and charities carry their own daily work and how they achieve their goals. It's slightly more rare for the community to hear about the actionable insights resulting from research, can benefit a wide range of stakeholders and add value to our societies. It's also been an exciting project for us here because it's been a true collaboration between the SIMAR and SIMAR Foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, let's introduce our next contestants. We have Luis Ramos and Alfredo Valencia from Peru. So in this next presentation, you will see a focus on the LGBTI community in Peru, where the team partnered with an NGO called Presente to really help them to tailor their messaging to the community and to the general public, and ultimately to work towards their goals of diversity and inclusion. So it's our absolute pleasure to introduce the team from Peru to tell us more about their research project.
Hi, my name is Luis Ramos, business manager passionate about innovation and people.
Hi, I'm Alfredo, market researcher excited to learn all about consumer trends.
We are two young researchers eager to learn here in Lima,
Peru, filled with colonial history, beautiful architectures, environments such as jungle, islands and coast, animal wildlife, and Machu Picchu, one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Yes, I know, that's what you know about Peru. But today we want to show you another side of our reality. We want to show you the face of discrimination, the Peru of intolerance.
Although we have many things to be proud of, Peruvians still live in a hostile environment, especially for vulnerable populations such as the LGBTIQ+ community. More than 1.7 million Peruvians, representing 8% of the adult population, receive comments such as, "I'm not being homophobic, but gays and lesbians should be thrown gasoline and burned. So pretty, but a shame she's a lesbian." I hope you recapacitate. After years, you will realize it was all just a mistake. As a heterosexual male, how would it make you feel having an homosexual teacher around your child for 8 hours a day?
And these aggressive comments are manifested too in the reality that the LGBTIQ+ community lives with their families, public spaces, and job opportunities.
54.7% of the LGBTIQ+ community stated that they are afraid to express their sexual orientation or gender identity. 71% of Peruvians consider that this population is discriminated. And also, 3 out of 10 people wouldn't hire an homosexual.
This situation is aggravated by a still conservative Peruvian society that does not recognize or include them. It's time to stop this, and the NGO Presente has been working with that objective. That is why we want to help them in their work, because we believe in the power of market research, and because it's time to transfer the success of its methodologies and tools from the business field to the social dimension. But for this, let's get to know the organization first.
Hi, my name is Gabriel de la Cruz, Presente Manager Director, a non-profit organization dedicated to incorporating LGBTIQ+ diversity in Peru. We dream with a country with citizens and institutions that respect and celebrate LGBTIQ+ diversity. For that reason, our mission is to create a favorable environment in Peruvian society where LGBTIQ+ people can fully develop personally, professionally, and politically. All our advocacy is categorized into 2 main spheres of work: outreach to employers, promoting inclusive workplace policies, and outreach to the culture sector as a strategy of reaching a broad audience. For that reason, we are very pleased to have been part of this project, because Luis and Alfredo are answering our principal question: what is the most strategic way to talk with a Peruvian audience to build a bridge of communication with them?
But how can we change this situation? How can we help Presente fight violence against the LGBTIQ+ community? The organization has been working towards this objective. It has built a network of allied organizations and actors that have the power to reach the great masses of citizens. However, what should this message be? With all this accumulated power, the challenge is to know how to speak to Lima citizens. That is the objective of this research, for which we believe it's necessary to attack myths and vulnerability strategically. It's not enough to propose a creative message. It is necessary to rethink, to take action. This is why we propose to go through a path of 3 stages: segmentation, ideation, and validation. The objective was to design an iterative process that will allow the research to adapt according to the results of each stage. In this way, in the segmentation, we first set out to know the citizens of Lima, what they think, what are their perceptions, in order to cluster them into groups according to their attitudes. Subsequently, this information was analyzed by multidisciplinary experts who developed 2 proposals based on a design thinking workshop. Finally, we apply behavioral science in a virtual community in which we test the community response of citizens to these 2 proposals. We will proceed to analyze each of these stages.
In the quantitative stage, using an attitudinal scale, the citizens of Lima were segmented, using a representative probabilistic sample into 5 profiles: strong rejection, rejection, ambiguity, acceptance, and strong acceptance towards the community. The strong rejection represented the 1% of the sample, so we did not include them. This result is made out of 412 participants distributed between heterosexual men and women of 18 to 55 years old living on Lima. We discovered that more men were on ambiguity. On the other hand, women on acceptance. Also, the younger people are, the more acceptance towards the community they have. And finally, people without children are often in the acceptance profile. We were able of grouping several traits in the segment with regards to their personality, environment, attitudes, and prejudice for every segment. Using this information, we shall present the different segments discovered in the first stage. They chose to focus this strategy on the ambiguity segment, those who are not in acceptance, neither in rejection of the LGBTIQ+ community, which is the reason this is the only segment analyzed thoroughly. In personality, we know that following social norms and traditions is extremely important for them. They are also quite religious. They also find it difficult when there are opinions different from their own, and cannot decide whether they need to justify their behaviors and attitudes with other people. In environment, the way how people look and dress is important, because that influences how they are perceived. They also are open to accept differences in the work environment. In attitudes, they do not know what to feel, or if it should be tolerated, or even if it's natural to see a gay or lesbian couple on the streets. They find harder to decide the rejection when they see 2 women kissing, unlike of 2 men. In prejudice, we found that they are still present in this group, especially that they are a bad example for children. However, they do not think that gays and lesbians are bad people.
These insights were presented to 10 multidisciplinary experts, psychologists, communicators, sociologists, publicists, and activists. For 4 hours, they had the challenge of creating 2 solution proposals through a design thinking methodology: empathize, ideate, prototype, and test. For these first 3 stages, we use innovation tools such as the user persona, the idea generation for brainstorming, the quick fire idea, and the elevator pitch. The result was 2 ideas to change the ambiguous segment. Later, we refined these ideas in a workshop with citizens of the ambiguous segment. This group analyzed the best and the worst of the ideas created by the experts, allowing us to modify them. The result was 2 concrete solutions proposals.
The first idea, the school empathy program, was designed to impact the ambiguity segment with something very deep and meaningful to them, their children. Therefore, the program aims to teach the school students about different social topics, such as gender equality, racism, the LGBTIQ+ community, and inclusiveness for people with disabilities.
The second idea was a communication campaign about experiences of discrimination. Based on the quantitative, it was known that empathy was an issue to take advantage of in the segment of the ambiguous. So this proposal had the objective of making them remember their past experiences of discrimination. For example, being mistreated for being fat, Indian, coming from the highlands, speak differently, or because of skin color. And then present discrimination for being gay or lesbian. They were expected to associate feelings in these 2 situations. Finally, these 2 proposals were validated in virtual communities with the aim of knowing how a community of the ambiguous segment responds to the solutions proposed by the experts. One platform, 7 days of community, 32 active participants, and 568 publications. At the end of the virtual community, we knew that there's a better reaction to idea 2, the communication campaign. This communication campaign had a better result among the participants who identified themselves with experiences of discrimination show. It was observed that the ambiguous segment emphasized with the discrimination suffered by homosexuals and related their past experiences of discriminations with experiences of the homosexual characters presented.
In the outputs of the research, we found as a first result that the research identified different attitudinal segments of Lima citizens. This allowed Presente to focus its strategy on a specific audience and learn more about the profile of the audience in which it wants to generate a change in behavior. Additionally, the allied companies of Presente will be able to identify these groups within their clients and workers, achieving to implement personalized communication strategies to each segment, especially with a view to Pride Month 2021.
This research also provides to Presente and a group of allied or companies 2 proposals designed by multidisciplinary experts based on a design thinking workshop. These proposals can represent routes of action for the campaigns of these organizations. Finally, this research also has a product of simulation of the potential response of the community of the ambiguous segment. This information can be a guide for the campaigns that Presente and the allied organizations develop for this specific segment.
What we learned: don't be afraid to learn new methods. There are new tools that can enrich our research, disciplines such as design thinking or behavioral science that were applied in this research. Always step up to new challenges. See them as an opportunity to keep learning in order of getting better results.
We also learn to be quick and flexible when researching. Research is not a static phenomenon, but changes as the environment changes. For this reason, it is important to be attentive to changes in order to adapt each result to the organization strategy. In this case, we had to adapt the research to the pandemic phenomenon. And we also developed capacities to organize and lead this investigation, managing organizations and allied professionals who guide us in the process.
We learned to go beyond established. Market research is able to go beyond economic results, focusing on leaving a perdurable mark in society. Do not settle for what have you learned so far. Always push forward into new horizons, never losing the curiosity for researching.
Yes. It's up to us to give the best in our work as researchers, but not only to know and understand society, but also to build a better society.
It is up to us to use our talents to make a positive impact.
It is up to us to transform the world from researching.
Time to be the change.
Time to research to include.
Welcome back to the studio once again. We hope you enjoyed the presentation as much as we did. It's been really fascinating to see how many different topics and young researchers addressed. And we can certainly say that each presentation was very different.
Yeah, really different. And I think it just really goes to show the diversity in our community. And I always really think that it's brilliant when young people get a platform to present themselves and their work to the world, and really to be recognized for their hard work and contribution to society. So our warm thanks once again to the team out in Peru and to the Peruvian Association of Market Research Companies for your incredibly hard work on this initiative.
Moving on, we'll introduce our next contestants, Mediacom Knowledge from Russia, who have chosen to focus on challenges faced by migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers in their country. Mediacom Knowledge, an association, the Committee of Civil Initiatives, partnered with an organization, an umbrella organization of NGOs in Russia named To Do Good, to find out more of how they could research a wider and more specific audience through their work.
So it's our absolute pleasure to introduce Mediacom Knowledge to tell us more about their project.
Hello, we are Mediacom Knowledge team from Russia.
Привет.
And I'm Olga, and here is my colleague Anna. For our clients, we do different type of research: qualitative and quantitative consumer research, econometrics modeling, social media monitoring, and so on.
The non-government organization that we got within the Research Got Talent was the Civil Assistance Committee. The committee helps to different vulnerable categories of people, mainly it's refugees and migrant workers. The area of help is wide. Mostly it's legal support, like court defense, obtaining the citizenship and granting the asylum. But also it's some food, some education in Russian, and so on. The important thing is that before meeting with the committee, we didn't know about this problem in Russia at all. But when they came to the briefing, it appears that there are a lot of needs there. Migrant workers, they need a job, they need a lot of documents, and refugees, it's very difficult. They need the status to get it, and all these processes are very complicated, and there is almost nobody to help them. So people need organization to help them, and organization needs donors. But there is strong xenophobia in Russia and high level of negative. So very few people are ready to help. So the committee wanted to know who are those people.
And our research objective was to define what segments of people are ready to help and find out people's attitude toward refugees and migrants. We studied problem from wide to narrow, from attitude to charity in general to exactly refugees and migrants questions. And how did we do it?
We provided all range of research available for us. We collected insight, we collected data, we analyzed all that. The main part was the quantitative survey for 2,000 people with the geography for all Russia and segmentation research as the result of that.
So what did we get? At the beginning of the study, we faced with frustrating but expected results. The level of tolerance in Russia is low, and only 2 or 3% of population already helps to refugees and migrants. It's a very tiny percent. We thought it was the end.
But finally, we came to powerful, positive breakthrough. First of all, almost 30% of people in Russia are ready to help right now. And the second is also 30% is potential audience with whom we can work now for the perspective for the future. And actually talking about negative, it's only 3% of people who are negative indeed. And if we take 100% of people who believe that there is no need to help, the whole quarter is just don't understand the issue. So it's not really negative people, we can work with them. It was a range of tricky moments during the survey. For example, 50% of people say, yes, we should help migrants, but does it mean that exactly they will do? Or, for example, they say that, yes, we would like to help migrants, but do they really mean it? So what did we do with that?
We decided to study both the opinion on the questions and personal motivation to help. And now we will describe you how we did our research. Firstly, we asked just a person's opinion. How did they think? If those people need help? And we have got 4 large groups. Some thought that nobody needs, some that only refugees need, and so on. Secondly, we asked and carefully studied and classified deep layer. the strength a tone of motivation and barriers from negative to positive. So this layer was about personal motivations and feelings on topic. And finally, we crossed these two types of factors, declaring position regarding help and types of motivation.
And we got a matrix. All researchers love metrics, but this one is the 100% pure love for us, because it shows a lot. First of all, it shows how many clusters in each segment. Second, it shows how many people of Russia in each of them. Third, the important one, we know what the clusters are in terms of their opinions and their motivations. And the final is that we build the portrait for each cluster, so we see also the social demographic and psychographic characteristics, so we know everything about these people. So on this moment, our research, segmentation 1, could be stopped, but we didn't, and the most interesting is further, and Olga will tell you now.
We looked at entire segmentation metrics and realized that there are a lot of people who are ready to help. And all segments differ from each other by their deeper motivation and barriers. So we need to work with them in different ways. More than half of Russia potentially can help to refugees and migrants, and we selected them as more priority group for work. One thing is common for all three groups. All of them don't know how they can help. So information about how to help need to communicate to all segments and then give additional information to each segment. For top segment, the information about committee is enough. For promising segment, we need to give more educational information, why they should help and what are the issues. And for the gray one, we need to give information about charity in general, give them specific details on how to help. Important thing, it needed to work with all segments at the same time. It's possible to develop people's attitude to the problem and upgrade them into a more promising segment. As it was with us, during the research, we went from a complete lack of understanding of the problem to ready to help right here and right now.
So, to summarize, there are much more people who are ready to help than we expected. And we widened the target audience for the committee and shifted their expectation because they thought that it's really narrow. But we showed the approach that how to work with broadened audience, but in a specific way. And we understand that it is right. We should work with wide audience and give people our communication and give them choice to use it or not. And talking about our personal outputs from this project, there are a couple of things. First, it was a really great opportunity to work all our team together on one project. It is really not very often, and the project was really meaningful. Second, and it was surprising for us, but very pleasant, we understood that our professional business skills are applicable in non-commercial organization. It is very cool for us. And the third is regarding working with this type of organization. We understood that we should work like really close. We should explain more. We should like show all the way how we did it for guys to understand and to trust our results. Just not showing the results and that's it. And of course, we want to say big thanks for this amazing experience that we had taking part in this initiative. We are not saying goodbye, so see you next year in Toronto.
See you!
And a warm welcome back to the studio to all of you who just tuned in to the session today. We would like to once again thank Mediacom Knowledge as well as OMI in Russia, because without you, this would not have been possible.
One of the things I really enjoyed about Research Got Talent is the diversity. For this first edition, we had projects competing from all corners of the world, and each had a multitude of social issues. Our hope that through this competition, we can offer a global voice to those charities and NGOs that do a tremendous job on the ground. We want to celebrate and promote greater use of good market research.
Yes, and also on a quick note, everybody probably already knows this, but this competition was also supposed to take place at the Congress in Toronto, where we could all have met in person, and the researchers presenting here today could have presented on the live stage. But I think, also all the researchers participating had to kind of adapt their presentation to be recorded. So it really opened up the door to even more innovation and creativity in trying to think about how they can translate that same impact and energy into the virtual environment. And I think everybody's done a really wonderful job.
So moving on to our next contestants, Martin Zipa, Teresa Pšivanova, and Katerina Miklova, who are presenting to you all today from Czech Republic. The team has focused on participating on young people in society and has chosen to work closely with an organization called Forum 2000. This organization helps to formulate the dialogue around the society design and the role that everyone in the community can play with that, in particular with young people.
Yeah, so without further ado, sit back and enjoy this next presentation and yet another brilliant showcase of what we can achieve through market research.
So hi Christina, you are representing the NGO which we are working for. Could you tell me a little bit about your organization and the issues you are focusing on?
Hello Martin. Yes, of course I can. Forum 2000 Foundation is a Czech non-profit organization that pushes the legacy of Czech late President Václav Havel. By promoting the values of democracy and respect for human rights, supporting the development of civil society while encouraging mutual tolerance. Forum 2000 provides a platform for global leaders, thinkers, and brave individuals to openly debate and share these critical issues.
Thank you. And so what do you think is the crucial we should focus on in our research? What are your main, let's say, topics?
What we believe is that active participation of people in public affairs is in everyone's interest. But what do we see is only a small proportion of young people, especially in Central Europe, being really actively involved or at least interested in public life. So the main questions we are trying to answer or we are trying to find the answers for are: why do we see young people not being involved in public affairs? What role do the terms and values like democracy or freedom play in their life and their personal commitment? What values do young people perceive as important to themselves? How would young people like to get involved in public life? And last but not least, of course, is what can we specifically do to see a growing participation and interest in public affairs and democratic values within young people in Czech Republic especially.
Okay, Christina, all clear to me. So let me sum the topic and the way we understand what we should do in our research. Very first thing what we are going to do is that we will be focusing on how young Czechs perceive the Czech reality. That's gonna be the very first thing we will be researching. Of course, this has several subtopics, I would say. The first one is that we have to get what activities they do. That's very important. The second thing are the topics that resonate with them. then we have to find out what is connecting them, and of course vice versa. And the fourth thing is if it makes sense to them to even participate in social life. And importantly, of course, are these questions somehow connected to topics like democracy and public participation in minds or actions of Czech young people?
We just saw so many research questions. Most of them were challenging. So, Teresa, can you tell me what research design did you use?
Well, we had to use the combination of several approaches. Firstly, we needed to understand our topic. So the whole research was preceded by desk research of domestic and foreign sources on a similar topic. We go through a lot of foreign case studies to get some inspiration, to get ideas, what we can use in our own research. And honestly, I have to say that these sessions were really inspiring, and we definitely don't regret any time we spent on it because it was very useful. And after this part, we decided to do a huge quantitative research with more than 2,000 questionnaires from people aged 15 to 35 years. And this whole group was representative by gender, age, education, and place of residence. The whole fieldwork took place during June and July 2020, so almost 2 months. And after this robust part, we decided to find out how our target group think, go a little bit deeper to their minds. So we ran 20 in-depth interviews with representatives of our target group. These representatives were chosen according to the results of quantitative part, according to the segmentation we did. And the last part was originally secret. It was our own recipe, something what we can add in our research, and something we called honest research and craft attitude.
Special ingredients. And what about kind of innovations? Was there something special in your design?
Yeah, we knew from the beginning that it will be a big challenge to create a questionnaire which will be user-friendly for our target group, because
it's difficult to reach them.
Yeah, and we need to have young people. So we use modern procedures in our survey environment. We were inspired, for example, by Tinder applications. Therefore, in our questionnaire, you can find swiping or drag and drops, or this something like that. And also, we were using a special attitude. We call it "we care" attitude. And except the panel data collection, the questionnaires were spread by schools or by initiatives or by employers. And it was really important for us to get the topic among our target group using research itself.
I see. And last question, what about the data processing? What about analysis? What was it about?
Well, we wanted to keep traditional statistical and methodological procedures, because we really wanted to keep credible methodology in combination with modern data collection, modern questionnaire. And like I said, it was honest research, craft attitude. Well, Vitek, what can you tell us about today's young generation? How satisfied are we with the state of society?
Well, based on the research results, we can say that we are a bit annoyed and resigned generation. We, as the research team, decided to call us the generation of mistrust. There are many reasons for that. Firstly, we are not satisfied with the state of society itself, but we don't feel like doing something about it. We don't feel like having the power to change it. Main reason behind it is that we believe that there's a significant lack of role models and inspiration in terms of individuals or organizations that would show us that participation makes sense and brings the change. Secondly, there's simply too much information that is contradictory, it's getting to us from all of the directions: politicians, media, social networks, family members, colleagues or friends, and the atmosphere could be expressed as the truth is always somewhere in between. I cannot trust just one information. It takes a lot of effort to orientate within this contradictory set of information, and only a minority of young generation has the strategy. The safest strategy for the majority is disconnection from this information, from what is happening, what is going on in the society. Surprisingly, we found out that there's kind of big trust in public service media, but we as a young generation do not really follow these media. The main source of information is being online and social networks. And to get to your last question, how satisfied are we with the state of democracy? I would see two levels or two different attitudes. The first one is that we feel like the democracy is okay within Czech society, and we don't see a real threat, we don't see real danger, so we're not motivated to participate or to be active in public affairs by the state of democracy. The second attitude is it's concerning the poor ones. It is that democracy simply doesn't bring anything positive to my life. It actually doesn't really influence my well-being, and it goes hand in hand with dealing with existential problems. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because you say that we are annoyed by the current state of society, but in the same time it doesn't force us to take any action. So what would have to happen for us to take to the streets?
Yeah, I think we should start here by saying what is in our minds understood as kind of basics of democracy, because we believe and we heard and saw that if someone touches or threatens the basics of democracy as we understand them, I think people would participate. They would take to the streets, as you say. These basics are simply said three things: freedom of speech and expression, freedom of movement, right to vote. These three things are understood as like things that have to be provided for me to feel like I live in democracy. But no one forbids any protests. If we forget about COVID-19 situation, no one forbids any traveling, or if I have money and time, I can travel anywhere. And no one seems to be forbidding anyone from voting. So we feel like we have kind of good democracy. And speaking about election, actually, we say how important it is for us to take part in elections by voting, and understand it as a public participation, but it often ends there. And the vote itself, kind of impulsive. We decide last minute because we don't really follow politics on a regular basis. And we don't think that we don't have a feeling that elections bring real change.
Well, it doesn't sound very positive for us. So you are saying that we are mostly passive young people, am I right?
Well, not really, because saying that we are totally passive generation would be too simplifying. We are not a mass of people just sitting at home and doing nothing. We do believe, I think I can say we do believe in participation, but we do not connect the participation with the state of democracy or with politics. We are active, but we are active in local affairs that are concerning our daily life. I think we can illustrate it nicely on the segmentation that we did, and it gave us the opportunity to divide the young generation into 5 segments, and this tells us which activities and topics make sense to be supportive in promoting public participation. And let's have a look at it. Almost 1/3 of the young generation, those are the passive ones. Young people who simply don't see real benefit of living within a democratic society, deal with existential problems, and seem to be most irritated or frustrated by the politics. Volunteering and charity is another segment of approximately 22% of the young population. These are the people not hesitating to invest their time and money into topics they are interested in, but do not really take interest in topics like democracy and politics. We see that public participation decreases with age, and the segment called online especially represents 23% of the young population, typically 25 plus, already working, participating only online. Less than 1/5 of us, those are the least satisfied with the state of democracy, not hesitating to take part in mass activities like petitions or protests, but not really doing anything individually. And the biggest fighters for democracy, only 8% of the young generation, active online, going to protests, active in charity, but very heterogeneous when it comes to their perception of the current state of the democracy, and very heterogeneous when it comes to understanding the basics of democracy itself.
Recommendation number 1. You will not support democracy by supporting democracy. It's simple. Democracy as a term is too generic. Link it to things that are close to young people. For example, they value freedom of speech, but see beginnings of censorship on social networks. Show them democracy in the eyes on 21st century.
Recommendation number 2. Go from bottom, go from local. Young people must believe positive stories of people who have really changed something. So go to localities, for example regions, municipalities. Find out what is bothering young people, talk to them about it. Find local heroes who can inspire them and prove that being active makes sense.
Recommendation number 3. Widen the operational model of the Forum 2000 Foundation. Communicate the topics that connect and communicate them online. In the long run, holding conference and organizing events in the capital only will not attract younger audiences.
I think we should showcase these results to other people as well, to organizations who are working with young people, so they can use the results as well, and we can adjust the activities to get more people involved in public affairs.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome back to the studio once more. We'd like to once again extend our warm thank you to the team in Czech Republic and to SIMAR, the Market Research Association of Czech Republic, for their hard work.
Absolutely, and I think it's been really wonderful hearing all of these different ideas coming together in the interest of supporting and advancing society, and really ultimately by empowering those organizations that do the work on the ground. NGOs and charities are incredibly important stakeholders in the insights community, and I think we absolutely need to hear more about how we can help them to tackle some of the challenges that they face today, and hopefully to become true partners in the future.
Exactly. On SMR Foundation, we're hosting webinars precisely on this topic. We are aimed to advance knowledge for not-for-profit organizations on this discipline and showcase the outcome of great research. This is why I like to invite all the charities and NGOs representatives that are listening to us now to check our online trainings offer and keep an eye on the SMR Foundation channels for more information.
Yeah, I think there's really a wealth of resources there that I think NGOs and charities would find really useful. So next up, last but not least, we have a presentation from India. You will see Karan Sabnis, who is Senior Research Manager at the Insights Division at Kantar in India. Karan had chosen to partner with the Parikrima Foundation and really focus on the holistic development of underprivileged children in Indian society, but looking particularly at behavior. So with that, India, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Namaste. I am Karan Sabnis from India, and I am here to tell you a story. This story is about how I helped Parikrima Foundation, which is an NGO based in Bangalore, India, in shaping and positively influencing behavior of underprivileged students. The story essentially has one problem statement and two key milestones, which helped me unearth insights that led to impactful recommendations to the client. So let's begin with the problem statement. When I received a brief from Parikrima Foundation, the brief was pretty clear. Parikrima had multiple schools in the city of Bangalore, which were catering to underprivileged kids. And there was only one issue that the school was facing: behavioral or disciplinary concerns. Classroom disruptive behavior of students that hampered the growth of other well-behaved students as well. And despite having a full-fledged disciplinary policy in place, the NGO was not able to put an end to this kind of a behavior. So the brief was pretty clear. They wanted to understand whether they should continue with the current disciplinary policy and make some tweaks to it so that it becomes effective, or to change the disciplinary policy completely to make it something completely new for the students. But when I read through this brief, I looked at it very differently. I thought that this had to be much, much beyond the school and the disciplinary policy, and it had a lot to do with the kids. It was important to understand why the kids are doing what they're doing. And that is how I landed with the 2 key milestones. I took out my paper and pen and made a research design that was designed by keeping the students in mind and at the center of the study. It began with exploration, in situ observations and interactions with teachers, spending some time with them to understand as to what exactly are the disciplinary issues, what exactly are the behaviors which are kind of considered as disciplinary issues. And second milestone was the key, the most important. It was about having unique interactive workshop with the kids to understand the why bit of it, as to why the kids are behaving in the way they do, understanding them at a deeper level and their behavior. These 2 milestones helped me come up with insights that help the NGO, not just tactically, but also in taking strategic actions and decisions. So the first milestone, which was about exploration, helped me understand the culture at Parikrama better. Initial 2 days of research in Bangalore, I just was at the schools, spending some time with the kids. I was observing, playing with the kids, eating with them, spending some time with teachers, understanding what the behavioral issues were. Doing all this, I realized that Parikrama is not just a school. It is way, way beyond that. Parikrama, apart from education, also takes care of the child's nutrition, healthcare, and also it has a full-fledged community center for taking care of the child's family. Having such an open culture, I also realized in the kind of behavior and actions that Parikrama is full of compassion. While interacting with this one teacher, I still remember this quote. She said that we have simple rules and regulations here. We are not their teachers, we are their brothers and sisters. That is why they call us Akka and Anna, which essentially in the local language means brother or sister. Such an environment of compassion gave rise to this whole environment, which was very similar to a home. Meanwhile, I also realized while I was interacting with some teachers that there was some kind of an inconsistency in implementation of the current disciplinary policy. While interacting with one of the teachers, she mentioned that some teachers are strict and follow the policy as it is, but some don't and use their own judgment to some extent. Now, this helped me in coming up with certain tactical directions for the NGO. Tactics to manage an open culture like they had. Given the underprivileged background of the kids, it was extremely difficult for the kids to strike a balance between the 2 environments that the kid was dealing with. As a result, the kids brought a lot of behavioral traits from home to school. This is what I realized during the research, which finally led into the behavior contract. The behavior contract is nothing but a contract or an agreement between the students, parents, and the school. This was a recommendation made to Parikrama, which it has implemented to set the boundaries right. And this agreement is closely monitored to ensure that the child realizes that school, though it may seem like a home, is not really a home, but a different environment altogether. Also, there have been steps recommended for building consistency in implementation of the current disciplinary policy. Teachers are now given differing levels of independence in applying own judgment in implementation of the disciplinary policy. The second aspect, which included interactive workshops with the students, helped me understand the kids at a deeper level. The students, essentially who are well behaved, had a very different mindset compared to students who were not generally well behaved and were disruptive in the class. I realized they were very similar in most of the traits, but in certain traits, they were completely different. So there was a small exercise that I did with them, a gamified version of a projective technique. I asked them to make their own superhero out of different material given to them. The exercise was called the Superhero Factory. Now the students who had a history of well-behaved, behaving well in the classroom, showed completely different kind of role models here, or completely different kinds of heroes as compared to those who are not as well behaved in the class. So here I had one set of students who are well behaved, calling Mother Life as their superhero. This superhero gives life, provides necessary requirements to all. She can convert desert into forest. So there was this sense of optimism amongst them. Whereas the students who were disruptive and were not well behaved had superheroes who were completely different from that of those who are well behaved. Like this one quote here, which says, "My superhero has the power of a shark and a mammoth, has octopus as his head, and is creative. Our superhero is not actually a superhero, he's a supervillain." Also, while I was interacting with them and giving them different exercises, I realized that the students who were well behaved had a sense of self. They had a positive self-image, which they always wanted to portray through different ways, one of which was good behavior. While the students who were disruptive did not have any positive self-image. And that is the reason why they looked up to their image of being negative and then stuck to behavior that was negative in the classroom, and thus ended up in creating a havoc or disruptive behavior in the class. This led to strategic directions to nurture all these kids who were, whether it be well-behaved or not well-behaved in the class. So there were two kinds of recommendations that we made and that the NGOs has implemented. The first one is short-term in nature. Putting a lens of this behavior or self-image, we could understand the disciplinary policy better of what really can work and what does not work for the students. We use this lens to review the disciplinary policy. So there were examples or certain punishments in the disciplinary policy that were linked to timeout, wherein the kids were asked to go and help in cleaning utensils and washing or cleaning. Okay, so this was not really helping boost them their self-image, which created problems and which further led to negative behaviors in classroom. This was then reviewed and we made recommendations to them to understand, go back and change it in the sense that such things that would boost the negative image of the kids should be removed, and some things that boost positive image should be encouraged and kept as a part of the current disciplinary policy. Also, in the long run, to boost the self-image, especially of the students who have a negative self-image, which then manifests into negative behavior, was to have some kind of role models within the classroom. That is why leadership roles were given to students with limited self-worth or those who exhibited disruptive behavior in the class. I also recommended them to reinforce positive traits within the classroom at different levels when the teachers interacted with the students. Peer-to-peer mentoring was also encouraged. And also, Parikrama came up with a very new initiative, which was also based on the research that we did, and that was Parikrama Oxygen, a space on the outskirts of city of Bangalore, which was meant for creative development of these kids. The kids would be taken there every now and then and set free into this new environment wherein they could explore themselves and boost their own self-image, so that they could, when they come back to school, they could show those positive traits in their behavior as well. Having said this, finally, I would like to say that initially our conversation with Parikrama Foundation began as understanding the disciplinary policy better. We wanted to understand whether the disciplinary policy works best or not. But the true impact and the real success of this study that we did was that we realized from this study that enforcing rules to manage behavior does not really work. Having rules or certain behaviors imposed on the kids that would show certain kind of an image that is negative or will boost the negative image within them is not going to work for them. Instead, Parikrama needs to change the way in which it deals with the kids, and that really is going to change and bring in change for them. With this, I would like to end my presentation. Towards the end, I would like to thank the Market Research Society of India, MRSI, for holding this initiative, for Ormax Consultants for the constant support throughout this initiative of the community program. I urge you all to be at home and stay safe. Thank you.
And that was our last presentation of Research Got Talent 2020. Thank you so much to our audience for tuning in today. We really hope that you found it interesting. We hope you found it refreshing, and I hope also inspiring.
We certainly found it incredibly enlightening, and I think the jury is going to have a really tough time deliberating and deciding on the winner. Keep in mind, tomorrow, Wednesday, 16th of September, the jury will come together to deliberate and select the final winner.
And on Thursday, 17th of September, the winner of the Research Got Talent Competition 2020 will be announced on the main stage by ESOMA's very own Director General, Finn Robin. So do make sure you tune into that. And of course, the Insights Festival has only just begun, so be sure to tune into the main stage session that's starting at 4 p.m. Central European Time. Once again, thank you to our partner associations, thank you to our researchers for your hard work, and thank you in particular to NetQuest for making this possible. And we can't wait to see you again next year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Welcome back to the Insights Festival show. What an amazing opportunity to look and explore so many wonderful young talents which have joined the community. And I think the work that they're doing in partnership with the nonprofit sector is absolutely inspirational and absolutely necessary in this time of needs. We are going to be back in a few hours to talk a little bit about the state of our world according to insights, but we're going to do a little special focus looking at diversity and then Latin America. So I hope that you tune in, but before that, we're going to have an amazing main stage. So I do hope that you stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of amazing content focusing on the tech developments that affect the industry. So do continue to watch and do continue to take a couple of breaks away from your screen. Enjoy. Hope you're enjoying the content so far.